It was in this quarter, the March quarter, that consumer and business confidence fell to its lowest level on record, that the ASX 200 lost a third of its value, and on the 16th of March saw its biggest daily fall of 9.7% on record. When combined with the ongoing drought, which saw farm GDP fall by 2.4% in the quarter, and the devastating impact of the fires that were raging across many states, one looks back on the March quarter and there wasn't much good news. Seen in this context, the fact that the Australian economy only contracted by 0.3% shows the Australian economy's remarkable resilience. Indeed, Australia's performance in the March quarter compares very well to that seen in other nations, with negative growth of 9.8% in China, 5.3% in France, 2.2% in Germany, 2% in the United Kingdom, and 1.3% in the United States. With 40 million jobless claims in America over the last 10 weeks, the economic situation in that country and across the globe is quite severe indeed. In Australia's remarkable story of almost 29 consecutive years of economic growth, this is only the fourth negative quarter in that time. While growth was up 1.4% through the year, the March quarter contracted, as I said, by 0.3%, broadly in line with market expectations. While government spending and net exports contributed to growth in the quarter, it was more than offset by the contraction caused by falls in consumption, investment and inventories. While fear of a lockdown saw panic buying of food and household items, total consumption still fell by 1.1% in the quarter. This is the largest quarterly decline in consumption in 34 years, with 10 of the 17 consumption categories falling. Spending on transport services and hotels, cafes and restaurants experienced their largest falls on record. In the words of the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the sharp reduction in spending on services was due, and I quote, to the introduction of social distancing restrictions and travel bans. The household saving ratio increased to 5.5% in the quarter as household income increased, but household spending fell. The health-related restrictions also significantly affected our tourism and international education industries. Net exports contributed 0.5 percentage point to growth in the March quarter. Services trade was heavily impacted by travel bans on both inbound and outbound travel. After 8 consecutive quarters of growth, services exports fell by 12.8%, while services imports also fell sharply by 13.6%. Australia recorded its fourth consecutive current account surplus of $8.4 billion in the March quarter, the longest consecutive period of current account surpluses since the 1970s. Exports continue to be supported by free trade agreements, which now cover around 70% of our two-way trading relationships, compared to just 26% when we came to government. New business investment fell by 0.8% in the quarter, with a decline in new machinery and equipment and new building more than offsetting an increase in new engineering construction. Mining investment rose by 3.6% in the quarter, the second consecutive quarterly rise, with only a few mining projects experiencing delayed final investment decisions as a result of the uncertainty caused by the coronavirus outbreak. The ABS CapEx survey released last week showed that despite investment intentions in the mining sector being downgraded, they do remain positive for 2020-21. Inventories detracted 0.2 percentage points from GDP growth in the quarter. Inventories in retail, wholesale and manufacturing fell as households bought goods at a faster rate than they could be manufactured. These falls were partially offset by a rise in the public authorities' inventories, including health inventories, due to a build-up in the national medical stockpile. The economy continues to be supported by new public final demand, reflecting spending across all levels of government, which rose by 1.4% in the quarter to be 5.3% higher through the year. Turning to the income side, compensation of employees, which measures the national wage and salary bill, was up 0.5% in the March quarter and to be 4.2% higher through the year. The increase in the compensation of employees was driven by an increase in employment, with 39,000 jobs created over the quarter. With restrictions easing, we are seeing some encouraging signs across the economy. As the Reserve Bank Governor said last week in evidence to the Senate Committee on COVID-19, and I quote, "With the national health outcomes better than earlier feared, it's entirely possible that the economic downturn will not be as severe as earlier thought." The ASX 200 is now just down 19% from its record high on the 20th of February and more than 32% higher from the recent low on the 23rd of March. The Australian dollar has now more than fully recovered the 11-cent fall that occurred in less than 2 weeks, from above 66 cents on the 9th of March to a low of 55 cents on the 19th of March, levels that were previously seen in October 2002. Consumer confidence has increased for 9 consecutive weeks since the announcement of JobKeeper and has recovered around 95% of its fall from mid-March. Business confidence rose in April to reverse around 1/3 of its record fall in March. However, it does remain well below its 10-year average. With restrictions starting to lift in accordance with the decisions of National Cabinet, it will be paramount to build confidence and to keep the momentum to consolidate these gains. Today's national accounts show once again that in the face of a 1-in-100-year global pandemic, the Australian economy has been remarkably resilient. We entered this economic crisis and this health crisis from a position of economic strength. Growth was rising, unemployment had fallen to 5.1% in February, 1.5 million new jobs have been created, and the budget was back in balance for the first time in 11 years. The strength gave us the fiscal firepower to respond as we have done. Around $260 billion in economic support, or the equivalent of more than 13% of GDP. We are not through this crisis as yet. And there will be some difficult days ahead. But our nation, working across geographical and political boundaries, has made great progress. Having withstood flood, fire, drought, and now the coronavirus pandemic, Australians have shown a unity and purpose, which has enabled us to make significant progress and for which all Australians can be very proud and very confident about their future.